Hey, dudes and dudettes, Mr. Theorist here, and welcome back to another podcast of Geeky Archives. I cannot believe I just said it like that. It's fine.
I'm sure they're used to it by now.
Yep. And I am again joined by the luscious Draven.
Hey, you're getting it right now. That's good.
Yeah,
Well, we know what you're like.
okay. And we're now on the...
One of your topics.
Yeah. This is like, what, our fifth?
Yeah, fifth episode.
Our fifth episode, isn't it? Jesus. That's
Yeah.
through, right. Okay, and this week's episode, guys, we are covering the Matrix Saga.
Numbers everywhere.
Do not mock the Matrix Saga.
I mock whatever I want to mock.
So, in this episode, guys, I'm going to be breaking down the storyline of the Matrix, and also a lot of the ideas that I've at least taken from the Matrix films, and also we'll probably be hinting a lot at the sim theory that keeps getting name dropped.
We live in the Matrix.
Well, kind of depends. There's some evidence
depends
for
how
those
you look
kind
at
of
it.
things. Right. Anyway, so let's get into it. You said that because we talked about it a little bit off camera.
It's been a long time.
So you remember the
since I've
first
seen
one. So we can go over the
Vaguely,
first
yeah.
one. Most people know the first Matrix anyway, because it's the one that...
the whole red pill, blue pill sort of thing.
Yeah, and they also revolutionised a lot of things, like the spinning
The
camera thing and things like that.
The Matrix, we live in the Matrix theory.
Exactly. So let's go over the first one. It's quite an easy storyline. So there is a guy who is convinced, and he wakes up every day at his computer, convinced that the world around him is fake. He doesn't care about his job, and instead does a side hustle as like a tech hacker. Kind of. It's never 100%. I'm never 100% sure what it was. He was.
Are nothing like real hackers.
I was never 100% sure what it was at the beginning of that guy picked up from Neo, and he paid him a bunch. I don't know if it was grades for a university course, or never quite sure.
Who knows?
But anyway, before this guy picks up his stuff though, he sees on his PC, and his PC seems to be talking to him, almost confirming his idea. Well, it's not actually. We do find out how it is. And the computer basically tells him that the Matrix is real, and he should wake up, and also he needs to follow the white rabbit, and then
of course,
just before someone knocks on his door, it taps knock knock, confirming an idea that whoever's typing this to him can see him, or at least have very good tabs on his surroundings around him. So he's convinced. He's like, okay, my computer said follow the white rabbit. The girl that's coming to my door, she's got a tattoo of a white rabbit. Let's go!
Party time!
So he goes to this party and meets a woman, and her name is Trinity, and they talk like the name Trinity is known to him, like that she's well known, and that maybe she's some sort of hacker, and but he does that thing that for some reason they decide to do in that era of movies. They've been like, well, I thought you were a dude. And it's like, well, most dudes do. It's like, you don't see that anymore. I'm glad they stopped doing that kind of thing. That was a thing for a while. It's oh, I didn't expect this really cool thing to be done by a woman. No.
It's got all this can only be men.
Anyway, so Neo talks to...
We don't want to go off on that time.
Yeah, so Trinity in person reaffirms to him that, look, yes, it's true. The Matrix is... the Matrix is all around us, it's what we are, but I cannot show you, only Morpheus can. Neo then wakes up and goes to work the next day. What, Neo?
No,
Morpheus. You could probably tell me some others. You will notice a lot of religious connections when I go over the different names that happen in this, especially the name of the ship and things like that. So we're going off track.
That one. Hearing that one kind of makes sense in your dreams.
Well, yeah,
dreams.
It depends. Like when we get to talking about the philosophical sides of the Matrix and Morpheus' role in it all. Oh, I love these. Right, so he wakes up work the next day. We need. I'm trying to go over a bit too quick. And he gets given a phone call. He gets given a phone in the post. On the phone is this Morpheus person that he's like really shocked at. He's like, whoa, and Morpheus basically says to him like, you need to come to me because they're coming for you. Who? And you see these FBI agent-looking people ready to track down Neo. I forgot we actually missed out a really cool thing. I'm very sorry. right at the beginning, before Neo's journey, before we start on Neo's journey, we have a cool opening sequence of Trinity. She talks on the phone, and then she's chased down by one of these agent FBI kind of people, and eventually escapes through a phone. Before she gets zapped through. It's where we get the first idea that the Matrix might not be real, kind of thing. I forgot that's actually a really important thing. I forgot that because I'm so focused on trying to tell the narrative of the story. So that happens, and so Neo has been told by Morpheus on the phone he's going to get attacked by these agent people, and he needs to sneak around. And we have this. Morpheus, for some reason, able to direct Neo to the second on how to dodge the police and these agents that are in the office with him, meaning that Morpheus can somehow see everything that is happening. He seems to have a level of omnipotence. Eventually, he gets Neo into an office and basically goes, right, now walk across this really thin ledge and climb up onto the roof. Neo, because he's just an average everyday Joe, his name is Mr. Anderson, he's meant to, the film is literally meant to be, he's meant to be a blank slate, so you project yourself onto him.
But basically we're that character.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That you are meant to experience the journey through Neo, is the whole
Basically saying, this could be anyone.
Yeah.
Anyone out there watching.
Yeah, and it was very deliberate. And at the time, a lot of people kicked off about Keanu Reeves acting in it. It was very stinted and it was very bland. But the thing is, if you look at the character, exactly, that was the whole concept of the character.
Then again,
of the film.
Some people can't differentiate between an actor and the character they play.
Yeah. So he decides it's crazy trying to walk across this thin ledge and climb up to the roof. So he decides to give himself in. He gets interrogated quite aggressively because they say that they've got all the file on him of his two lives, of his Mr. Anderson life, where he's just like an office worker who has a normal
average Joe, and
the other side where he's a hacker who does a lot of things, and he goes by the alias of Neo. Setting up the idea of there being two personalities, one for normal life,
one's adventurous.
He basically sticks his finger up at them and goes like, no, give me my phone call. And then the most creepiest scene takes place where the lead agent, who's Agent Smith, says, what is the point in a phone call if you are unable to speak? And Neo's mouth disappears. They pin him down and take this lovely little parasitical robot, and it climbs inside his belly button.
Of course.
So he wakes up, Neo then freaks out and wakes up in his bed like nothing's happened. He's like, gets a communication from Trinity going like, look, we need to meet now. We need to meet. He goes with them. They drive in a car. You get this really nice. It's night and it's raining. It's the very Matrixy look to it. It's first Matrix is so damn good. So they're driving in the car and they point the gun at him and they're like, right, lift up your shirt. And they're like, well, it's like, oh.
Excuse me.
What? And they're like, you're bugged. And it's because he's got the thing in him. He's literally bugged. Like you would be. Yeah, it's clever.
There's a lot of things like that.
Exactly, it's quite clever.
Harry Potter do it.
They stick this weird device, pulls the bug out, and then they manage to go meet Morpheus, and it begins the infamous scene of red pill, blue pill. Of like, take the blue pill, you'll wake up and you'll go to bed and you'll wake up and believe whatever it is you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and we see how far the rabbit hole goes.
Yeah.
Takes a red pill, goes through a really trippy, liquidy mirror scene, and the mirror goes into his flesh, and it all merges into telephone lines and into the code, and then he ends up waking up in a pod, which is like there's millions of pods, and all humans are being farmed in this weird robotic farming thing. He eventually gets rescued by the team aboard a ship called the Nebuchadnezzar.
King Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah, I guess there was another name you were going to recognise.
Biblical reference.
Yeah.
One of the Babylonian kings.
So at this point, Neo is now in the real world.
Either one.
I wouldn't. You are saying loads of things. At some point, I will kind of understand, but at the moment, no idea.
Yeah.
It's Christian. A lot of is it Christian?
Not just Christian, but a lot of the East Asian.
East Asian.
Possible. Well, basically Christianity, Judaism, I think Islam. Have mention of Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah.
He was a great king. I can't remember if it was Babylon or Mesopotamia that he was the king of, but he was a known king.
Yeah. Anything major important thing? Testing your knowledge now. You weren't expecting this, were you? Do you mean to move on? I'll move on. So they're aboard the Nebuchadnezzar, and they basically start doing these little needle things into Neo because they have to basically make his muscles work again. Because
he's been sitting in that pod just
so he's never had to move, so his muscles have never had to do anything. Eventually Neo gets better, and... Huh?
Wally.
Yeah, I guess, with them all being stuck on the pod things. But it's true, isn't it, is that if you don't use your muscles, then you actually lose your
motor function, and you can gain innumerable weight.
Yep. So Neo recovers. Eventually, he's got no hair now, but it's slowly, ever so slightly growing back. Everyone you see looks different. Trinity doesn't look like the badass leather chick. She still looks amazing, hot, and badass, but just not in cool leather. And she's a bit more malnourished. And you can tell you can already tell that when you're in the Matrix, you have a different variation of yourself to what you are in the real world. Which is a really interesting fact that we'll talk about in a little bit to do with one of the crew members of the Nebuchadnezzar. So Neo goes with Morpheus, and they jack him into a program where basically Morpheus walks him through what it is that is taking place. There's a whole montage of stuff that I'm not going to go over every little thing. But during his whole sequence, Neo is given training programs to learn different types of kung fu and stuff.
Basically, training him up to fight.
Yeah, they teach him how to use guns and stuff. But you don't see the gun montage stuff. But in the Path of Neo game, which is written almost as a canonical thing it's almost canonical until the end boss. But in that, you see a lot more of the different types of trainings that they go through. So you have a whole montage of that. Morpheus also explains to Neo what the hell is going on, and we have our info dump, and we find out in this world that the real world is controlled by the machines, and the Matrix was built by the machines to imprison us inside, and because we are used as a power source for those machines, but this is where when you start rewatching, you want to start giving different reasons for why things happen. This is where I start having questions like, why do the machines continue to use us as a power source? We get told the sun is blocked out, but machines have built an artificial system that that they can have a mass amount of human minds inside that constantly replicates the world around them and creates this amazing thing. And you're telling me they didn't figure out a way to unblock the sun, which would have been a much better way of having a power source? To me, means that there must be some reason as to why they want to use the humans as a power source. Maybe it's a symbiosis relationship between them.
What one can't exist without the other.
Exactly. But that goes into a lot more things later. But yes, we find out that that's why the Matrix exists, to keep us docile, why the machines farm us as a power source. Which again, you ask the question, if they're going to use us as a power source, why is it they create a Matrix that gives us such a blissful existence?
Yeah, maybe it's the endorphins.
Yeah, what is that? Is it the reaction to the world that we exist in the Matrix? Does that give off the chemical and electrical reactions in our brains that creates the power needed?
Exactly.
That
Maybe
use?
they can only work off certain types of power.
We know, because the thing is, we know they used to be solar powered because in the Animatrix thing, where we do actually get to see where the war happened in that.
Yeah.
Because that's cool at Sega we can do it, because Animatrix fits. Parts of it can fit.
There's parts of it fit in certain places.
And you find out
it's the filler sort of.
Yeah, but you find out in one of them that the machines were built as slaves for mankind. And then one day a really violent event happened and a machine fought back. The machine, because there was slight AI already by this point, the machine was put on trial. And this kind of started like this kind of
the us versus them.
Us versus them mentality. Like the machines are the other.
A lot of things.
And eventually a war happens, and you find, and they tell you in that the reason the sun's blocked is because man found out. Well, they
need the sun.
They need the sun. Yeah, they're solar powered beings.
So basically, they tried to kill them off by taking away their power source.
Yeah.
So in retaliation, the computers developed to use humans as a power source as karma.
Well, the idea is that they block out the sun and it lowers their type of power they can use, and then it leads to a war between the two factions. And when the machines win, they discover at that point that mankind can be used
as a power source. Like they somewhat used to use technology as a power source.
Yeah.
So basically, it's that whole flipping the idea of, say, like, well, as you see in a lot of shows and that, one group win, but they were oppressed, so they now become the oppressor.
Yes, exactly.
It's the oppressed over the oppressor.
Yep, and because there's many different shows that have a similar kind of premise.
Oh yes, multiple.
You could almost connect them all, couldn't you, Dave?
Cult of Theorist.
Sim Theory.
No.
If you call it the Cult of Theorists, people are going to think that I'm going to want them to drink Kool-Aid one day. And then they won't when I actually want them to drink the Kool-Aid one day. So...
just put tons of sugar in it.
Yeah, so we call it Sim Theory for now, okay? We're not meant to tell the audience... Anyway, we're going off on a tangent here.
As always.
So Morpheus explains what the Matrix is, and Neo doesn't agree to it at first. Eventually, after he gets trained through a bunch of training programs,
and sees things. All that.
Well, that's what the Kung Fu element is. It's almost like a Tai Chi element as well. Yeah, it is more of a spiritual, because when Morpheus when he fights with Neo, he does say to him, like, do you think that's air you're breathing? It's not just like I can beat you in a Kung Fu fight. It's no, understand that all the different reactions and the way that you are trying to react in this space, none of that matters. Yeah. Because none of that is real in this place. And when we get to the end of this film, I'm going to explain something that I've always believed, and I put on my channel, about Neo himself and the concept of the One, because this is what Morpheus says to Neo. Is that he says that he is the one that will be able to bend the Matrix to his will. Because they have a conversation in what you think is the Matrix, but actually it's another training program that teaches you that anyone plugged into the system that still believes that the Matrix is their real world. It's kind of like, if you notice a lot of online rhetoric these days, you begin to use these kind of red pill, blue pill, and also like people being plugged in, the sheeple, like the AI, NPCs. All of this, actually, Matrix kind of was telling about this in the 90s. Like, I know you had 1984 and you had all those other things, but Matrix was giving you a contemporary idea of what's really going on in the world. That there is a system most people are plugged into, and the system can use anyone who's plugged in as a weapon. It's basically what the agents are. They are the strong arm of the system, and they can use anyone that believes the system is their world. And then the people who are unplugged, the people who dress in leather and dress in black, almost like goths and all those alt groups that kind of are disenfranchised by the system around them.
Coincidence?
Yeah. So Neo eventually comes around after some cool Kung Fu sessions, almost beats Morpheus in the fight, and he says, I know what you're trying to do, and Morpheus is like, all I'm trying to do is free your mind. And then you get the one final test, which is to prove whether or not you truly believe that the Matrix is fake and you can bend the rules to your will. It's a jump program where you're basically meant to jump a large gap between two buildings. Now, if you believe,
going back to something you were saying earlier about going from the ledge to the roof.
Kind of. It's understanding the idea that this is all just programmed information, and that if you wanted to make that jump, you can make that jump because it's not real.
You're controlling it, not it controlling you.
Your brain interprets the world around you, so you should be able to interpret. As long as you understand the world isn't real, the world has no control over you. You can make that jump. You can break the barriers that the world is trying to tell you exist, even though those barriers don't actually exist. Unfortunately, Neo doesn't fully believe, barely makes the jump, falls flat on the ground, and then everyone on the crew is discouraged. They're like, maybe he's not the chosen one. Because in the Kung Fu fight, he does show like more than normal kind of reflexes. Yeah. So everyone's like, maybe he is. But then when he fails a jump program, they're like, okay, maybe not. They then go to visit the Oracle. And the Oracle is the one that has prophesied about the One who will bring balance, free the world. Like in this concept, it's freeing mankind from the machines. It's ending the war. Is what the idea of what Neo is meant to accomplish. He meets the Oracle, and the Oracle's like, don't worry about the vase. Neo's like, what vase? And knocks over a vase as he turns around to look at the vase. And it's like, ooh. And she says the great line of like, don't worry about it. What's really going to make you new later is, would you have still broken the vase if I hadn't have said anything?
Yeah. Cause and effect.
And she's like, don't worry about it though. Here's a cookie, and by the time you finish that cookie, your brain's going to be fine. So she gives him a quick look over and goes, And Neo's like, what? And she's like, interesting. What I'm going to say to you is, you've got the skills, but you're missing something. And she's like, yeah, you're not the one. And then she says, I'm trying to remember the line correctly. She's like, Morpheus believes it so badly that he's going to put his life to save yours. And he's like, oh, okay. Because they're in the Matrix to visit the Oracle, the thing is that anyone who hacks into the Matrix who isn't part of the system, the Matrix can eventually find you.
Yeah.
It's like you're a virus in there.
Yes. Yeah.
And the agents are like the ones that will hunt down the virus.
Virus protection.
But we also know that a crew member of the Nebuchadnezzar, his name is Cypher, he basically, because the way you can find you quickly is if you are using your phone to talk to the operator, and the operators are like your techies who allow you to hack into the Matrix.
Yeah.
Like you plug yourself in with the big rod goes into the back of your neck.
Standard.
But the hackers, they are the ones that can find...
They send you into
Yeah,
it.
they find your weak points, and they can also find exits that you can find to get in and out, and they can also, before you enter the program properly, they can kit you out with some weapons or tools that you might need along the way.
Yeah.
So the phones that you have with you have a direct connection between you in the Matrix and the operator in that world.
In the real world.
Well, Cypher, because he's decided that this whole Matrix thing is all baloney and he doesn't care anymore, leaves his phone on, and the machines use it to track the Nebuchadnezzar ship.
Yeah.
There is also a scene we see earlier that I forgot and breezed over, where Cypher is in a conversation with Mr. Smith, the head agent, and basically like, yeah, I'm going to give you Morpheus, and you're going to plug me back in. Like, I don't want to know anything. Make me like a famous actor or something, but I don't want to know. I don't want to forget about this whole world, everything around me. Like, I just want to forget that the Matrix is fake.
Yeah.
So basically, when they're coming back with the Oracle, there's already a trap laid at their exit point. A young teenage kid called Mouse gets gunned down, and it's really sad because he's like this true believer all the way through the film in Neo. Like he's like really like, oh no, and he believes that Neo is gonna like save them. He's really happy, but he gets absolutely gunned down. It's really quite sad. And then when they finally get to the phone after managing to escape, and Morpheus unfortunately sacrifices himself, as it was prophesized, so that everyone else couldn't escape. They finally get to the phone, but that's when we find out Cypher, who was escaped earlier on, has taken out the operator. So he answers the phone and is like, hi, I'm going to kill you all, and then I'm going to be plugged back in the Matrix. So, yay. And, by the way, Trinity. And he goes, it's really creepy. He's clearly got a creepy obsession with Trinity, and it's partially probably what disenfranchised him and made him want to go back to the Matrix. He's, you can understand he's like the incel. Like, he understands that the world is broken, but because he's not getting what he wants, he's willing to... he's willing to throw everyone else under the bus to just be like, no, let the system take care of me. If I sacrifice everyone to the system will love me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he then starts unplugging people in the real world, which before their minds return to their bodies from the Matrix, if you unplug someone, they're trapped. They're trapped and they die. They die because your brain doesn't have any functions, and you're basically brain dead. What's interesting is one of the characters. What's her name? It's not Tupac. It's. Switch? No, it's Switch, that's it. Because that's the point of her name. It's Switch in the original script of the film. Was going to be male in the real world, but in the Matrix world was a female.
Oh, yeah.
And it was actually going to be like the whole thing of like
fluid.
your identity, like they actually do identify, but obviously they are a man in the real world, but their self-identity is a woman.
Yes,
but for some reason, we're not gonna say what specific reason, but for some reason it wasn't in the film, and switched to it just became the same person in the real world as the Matrix world.
I wonder.
It clearly wasn't the director's idea, because the directors turned out to become trans themselves.
Yeah.
Because they were the Wachowski sisters. Wachowski brothers at the time of the original films being made. So he starts unplugging everyone, and then just before he gets to Neo, because he wants to leave Trinity to last week, chat sweet nothing to her as he kills everyone else around her.
Yeah,
charming.
Psycho.
He starts going on about like, okay, so if Neo is the one, like Morpheus is meant to have us all believe, then for some divine reason, I won't be able to unplug Neo. I will be stopped.
Yeah.
And at that exact moment, the operator gets up, burnt to a crisp, but he gets up with a gun and he's like, believe it or not, you son of a bitch, you're still gonna die. And fries the hell out of Cypher. And it's like,
is that divine intervention?
Is it meant to kind of hit that Tank actually survived? Because he actually does die between the films.
Yeah.
But did he manage to survive for this and become conscious just to save Neo? Was it coincidental? Because the film doesn't tell you exactly, you can have your own interpretation.
Or was there something else controlling?
Well, that's an even deeper thing when we start getting to Matrix 2 and 3. So, we're almost at the end now. So, Neo and Trinity are the only two left with, and they're like, okay, what do we do? Because Morpheus is still alive. Because Morpheus is still plugged in, but he's been kidnapped in the Matrix world.
Yeah.
And they say, like, we have to unplug Morpheus, because if they crack Morpheus's brain, they'll have the codes to Zion, and that's like the human refuge. So any humans that make it out, that's another one you'll obviously get.
Another biblical reference.
Yeah, so the idea is that any humans that survive, they find this safe refuge, and that's what Zion is, and that the captains of all these different ships that go out and do hack into the Matrix to rescue people, they have codes that allow them into Zion. So they're like, we need to unplug Morpheus in order so the codes aren't found by the agents, and then give it to the machines in the real world, and then they can find Zion. Because obviously the agents can rely information from the machines in the real world. And
so basically they're almost like the avatars for the machines in the Matrix.
Not really. You think of everything isn't a human in the machine in the Matrix is a program.
Right.
But you do find out from Matrix 2 and 3 that the programs do have a level of awareness, like a real level of awareness, to the point where they even have feelings.
I got you,
And the agent, because you begin to find out that we have a really unhinged scene where Morpheus is being interrogated by Smith, and he basically says, like, I need to get out of here. I tried quantifying your species, and I don't think you're mammals, I think you're a virus. And the longer I'm in this world, this thing, the more I feel infected. And he also talks about another thing that's really interesting we need to talk about for sim theory, is he starts talking about the first Matrix world. And he talks about how the first version of the Matrix was meant to be like a utopia perfect world. But thousands of crops died. They lost so many humans for it. And he says it's because humans just couldn't accept paradise. So eventually they ended up getting to the Matrix one that they've decided on now, and he wants out. He says he feels infected by the human virus and he just wants to be out of here, and the only way out is to get the Zion code so he can break out of the Matrix. So he's becoming slightly unhinged, he's showing emotion, and so there's clearly more than just they are just programs.
Sentience too.
Exactly. So just as they're about to unplug Morpheus to save Zion, Neo's like, wait, this is that moment that there was talking about, is that Morpheus' life will be in my hands. And something that, like, and I cannot believe that this is all coincidence, there has to be more to it. So he's like, I'm gonna go rescue them, and they're like, are you insane? It's a fully fortified building with agents. Nobody's ever survived an agent. What are you getting at? There was a line earlier in the film where Morpheus was trying to convince Neo he's the one, and he's like, everyone who's ever fought an agent has died. Like, and Neo's like, okay, so what do you expect me to do? dodge bullets.
Oh,
and things
that
like
scene.
that's the line. And Morpheus says, "No, Neo, I'm saying when the time comes, you won't have to," which is all foreshadowing for the end of the film. So Neo's like, "Screw this, I'm gonna go rescue Morpheus. I don't care." Trinity's like, "The odds are insane. What the hell are you doing?" And he's like, "I don't care. Let's just do this." And they're like, "Okay, I'll get you as close as possible." And you get the cool line of they jack in, and the tank goes, "So what do you want?" "Guns." Lots of guns, and they get into gun stuff. And then we have the awesome rescuing of Morpheus scene, which is where you this is the scene that most people would recognise from it, is shooting down a bunch of police by doing cool flips in the long trench coats.
And Neo does that back
flip, and then also when they get to the roof to collect a helicopter, that's the scene where Neo dodges bullets. It does the bullet time thing. That happens in the first Matrix film, and that scene ends with the most epic comeback ever, where obviously Neo is like dodging bullets. He's like,
oh, careful there.
Dodging bullets, gets hit slightly, and it's like, "Trinity, I need help!" And then Trinity like sneaks up behind the agent and goes, "Dodge this." Shoots him point blank range. It's really cool. So they get to a helicopter that's got a chain gun on it,
of course,
and they eventually manage to rescue Morpheus, who hasn't broken. He's still there. He's clearly just like, "I can do this. Get out!" And he almost escapes, but he gets shot. His foot gets shot by Agent Smith, and he misses the jump from the helicopter to the building. Neo jumps out, connected to a bit of rope, and grabs Morpheus.
Of course.
Trinity then flies the helicopter
with them dangling, our stereotypical action scene.
But what happens here is they manage to get close enough to a building where Neo drops Morpheus so he can be on a rooftop and be fine. He manages to get his feet firmly down, but Trinity's stuck in a falling aircraft going downwards, and it's really cool because Neo holds the chain that is holding onto him that's on the helicopter. Then he rescues Trinity, and it's all a cool thing, and then there's this, Morpheus comes out with the scene of, "Do you believe now, Trinity?" Like, Morpheus is lapping all this cool stuff off.
He's like, "Yeah, I just did that." Morpheus
is like, "Yeah, he's my superhero. Neo is the one. I feel validated."
Fanboy.
He's really just fanboy. They manage to Morpheus and Trinity and Neo all get to the subway, to a phone, to escape. But before Neo can pick up the receiver, after the other two have escaped, unfortunately, Agent Smith's there and shot the phone. So now Neo has to fight Mr. Smith. And everyone's like, and everyone can see this on their screens with the cool line of code that is the iconic code that everyone sees.
Yep, the numbers.
But it's in universe. Anyone who's looked at it long enough doesn't see binary code. They actually see the visual representation that we see when they're in the Matrix. They really almost like that, instead of it just being. Actually, I think if I remember correctly, the actual code is a recipe for soup.
Yes.
I think that's what
written
it is.
in binary.
I think that's what it is. It's a recipe for soup.
Yeah, they can just slip that in there.
So he decides to try and fight Smith and Tank. I think it's Tank anyway. I'm pretty sure it's Tank. Him and Trinity are like, what the hell is he doing? And Morpheus is like, he's beginning to believe. Like, doom, and then cool music. Neo and Smith scrap. There's a really cool fight scene. Neo actually beats Smith by having
TKO.
a cool, kind of. Smith manages to knock Neo into the rail tracks, and he's holding on to him. And it's like this affirmation, "Don't call me by my dead name" kind of moment, because all the way through the film, Smith calls Neo Mr. Anderson by his Matrix name, not his true name. And he's holding him in front of the tracks because agents can't actually die because their bodies are just
part of the Matrix.
Yeah, they're just people who are plugged in. They are programs that take over the body of, well, not the body, but like the mind avatar of anyone around them. So they don't have a physical self. So he's holding him in front of a train and he's like, "Do you see this, Mr. Anderson? This is the end. This is inevitable." And Neo just goes, "My name is Neo." Jumps up, knocks him off, jumps out of the way, train kills Smith, and he's like, "Yay, won!" But unfortunately, because there's people on the train, they're all plugged in the Matrix. Agent Smith can just come into a new body, and at that point, Neo's just like, Nah, runs off.
This is what they meant when he by his unbeatable.
Yeah, so he runs off, brings up the operator, and he's like, okay, off. I'll tell you where to go. Follow the guy. It's really cool. He's going through apartment buildings, breaking through, jumping through windows, trying to get to the right. It's a really cool scene. It's really tense.
Action
Music's
montage.
good. He gets to the final door, he busts the door open, but Smith's already there.
Of course.
Point blank range, shoots him in the chest. And shoots
Typical.
him a bunch of times. He goes
Overkill.
down, and Neo dies. And you're like, oh no, what's happened? And then Trinity has her beautiful moment. She comes forward, she goes up to Neo's dead, lifeless body in the real world.
Yeah.
And goes, Neo, you can't be dead. Because when I went to the Oracle told me I would fall in love, and the one I would fall in love with would be the one. So do you see, Neo? You cannot be dead. She kisses him, his mind wakes up, and
Surprise.
and then
She loves first kiss.
basically, yeah, and because he like, if you imagine the short corridor, doors either side of a short flat corridor. Neo's lifeless body's on one side of the corridor. Smith's right in front of him, but Neo then gets up, and Smith's like, "What the heck?" And they try and have this fist fight, and Neo's like knocking him away like it's nothing.
Dodge.
And you can see like he's moving so quickly that he's just like, no. And then he decides he doesn't want to use two hands anymore. He uses one hand. And just really curious, he looks at him as he just starts dodging with every hand, and then like kicks Smith out of the way. He gets knocked back, and they're like, he pulls out the gun, and they start firing guns at him, and he's just like, no, stops the bullets stop, and they're just like, okay. And then Neo runs towards Smith and jumps into Smith. And then Smith starts freaking out. You see, he starts pulsating in body parts, and he blows up. And as he blows up, Neo's there, and Neo flexes. And as he flexes around him, you actually see in the world itself flexes as he flexes. So the legend is that Neo, the One, will have the ability to change the Matrix as he sees fit. Neo is literally bending the Matrix there as he flexes. And the other two agents who are in the corridor take one look at him and think, nope, and they run off. And then the film ends with Neo having a cool monologue on a phone where he's like, I'm going to show them the world you don't want them to see. And then flies off, does a cool Superman flying off. And we have a cool techno, Killing in the Name of, I think it is.
Oh,
I think that's the song that finishes
that's a good song.
the end.
The techno version could be interesting.
So, what time was that? How long was that?
Not bad. 40 minutes.
Oh god, right, we've got 2 more to go through. No, 3 more to go through. Right, this might actually be a 2-parter.
Yeah, probably best.
We'll probably do
the second one.
Matrix and Matrix Reloaded, and then we'll do Revolutions and Resurrection.
That's it.
Resurrection's the last one. I almost forgot the second area. So we'll talk about Reloaded. So in Reloaded, we'll do a bit of lore stuff before. In the Animatrix stuff, there is a bit that's based between the 2 films as well, where there's 2. Oh no, it is 1, isn't it? Where you have another crew who is just another hacker crew that's part of the rebellion. And there's the captain and his second in command. There's kind of a chemistry going there, and this is all done in a really beautiful Japanese art style. Then they have like a samurai fight scene and stuff. And the captain begins to hint at the idea that, he himself is kind of done with this world, and he just wants it all over. His second in command eventually manages to beat him in this training program, and manages to get a warning out into the Matrix, because the way communication works is obviously there is no Wi-Fi, there is no internet.
Yeah, so they have to buy.
They have to literally use the Matrix's mail system to get messages to each other. It's really cool in-universe kind of thing. So she manages to get to the to send a warning, because the warning is that basically the machines have found Zion, and they've sent a freaking massive army that's like 10 robots to every human in Zion to the place, and they found the location. They're going to destroy it, and they want to get the message out to Zion quickly. So she's rushed off, but their ship was intercepted, and everyone on that crew dies as that message is sent. Then, because that's the Animatrix short film, then in Enter the Matrix the game, that is based around Trinity, Niobe and Ghost, who you meet in the second film, Niobe's like an ex-girlfriend of Morpheus,
Right.
and they're like the other main crew that we get in the rest of the saga. And basically, they all the way through their game is about receiving that message that was sent by that other crew, and they managed to eventually get the message. And and about halfway through Enter the Matrix is where the second film kicks off, which is all of the captains of the human vessels have all found this spot to go to, and they're all communicating. And they're all communicating about this message that the machines have found Zion and they're going to go destroy it. We get a cool scene in this intro sequence of Neo defending the captains against two agents, and he feels impressed because he actually has to use more than just basic skills, and he's like,
You've
upgrades.
improved.
Yeah, still manages to beat them up.
Standard.
And then once he beats them up, he begins to sense like a weirdness happening, and he flies off. You find out that Smith is still alive.
Of course.
And that he wants Neo to know that he freed him. He set him free. Then the best way to kind of explain this film. Yeah. Okay. So let's stop. So the plan has been found. Once everyone's been told and like, Jesus, we need to get out of here. The Romans are going to find us. They all go back to Zion. Once they all get back to Zion, the generals of Zion are like, look, we need to shut down Zion, we need to fortify our walls, get all of our guns ready, everyone inside, and we need to prevent this army from wiping us out.
Yeah.
Morpheus, because he is the dogmatic religious person he is, still believes that Neo has a mission to complete. That he needs to wait for the Oracle to relay them so they can eventually end this war. He believes that through Neo the war will end.
The one and only that can save the world.
His religion will save him rather than everyone being in Zion.
Very religious.
The general's like, no, like I need everyone here, and Morpheus manages to convince some of the council members, look, me and another crew will go and we'll wait. He says, can I have one crew waiting outside the walls for a message from the Oracle so we can go? Eventually, there's a message that happens. They go to the Oracle after Neo's had this cool philosophical discussion with one of the council members at Zion, and they look over the machines and they say it's interesting that there are loads of machines outside the city that are trying to kill us, and yet inside these walls there are machines that are keeping us alive. That keeps the city warm and helps us produce
not all machines
water
are
and
evil.
stuff. It's weird though, because the machines outside are AI machines, and machines in here are more like engineered type machines that are just like cogs and stuff. So I'm like, it's a weird thing to build, because once you get to the end of the saga, you find out that the ones outside, they're nothing like these simple systems you have in here. They're like proper beings out there. So they eventually go to the Oracle, and the Oracle's like, look, you need to go to this guy called the Merovingian and rescue the Keymaker. And the Keymaker will give you access to basically get to a doorway that Neo needs to get to.
Of course.
So what happens is they go to rescue the Keymaker from the Merovingian, and they go there, and the Merovingian's like, no, you're not having this Keymaker, he's lying. And you have this really creepy scene where the Merovingian talks about how cause and effect, like, and he goes over this big philosophical thing, and you find out, and all the way through him going through this, like, oh, you came to me, and you, like, the only reason you're here is because the Oracle told you to come here, cause and effect. And then while this is happening, he sent a cake off to this random woman, and she eats the cake, and it's hinted that there's something special in the cake. And when he's done talking to Neo and Co, he's like, cause and effect, I drank too much wine, and now I must take a piss. And he goes and he walks off.
Of course.
Morpheus, Trinity, and Neo are like, what the hell do we do now? They get into a lift, and they're like, okay, what are we going to do? Neo has this line where Morpheus is like, are you alright? And you find out at the end of the first film that Neo now sees the world differently. He sees it as code. Like everything in the Matrix he sees as this green kind of like outlines and the codes that make it all up and stuff. He sees it like that. So when he's looking at anything, he can see the outcomes, or he can see if there's any booby traps around.
Yeah.
So he suggests like every floor sees booby traps in this building. It's and the code's weird. It's old. So they get in the lift and they go home because they don't know what the hell to do. And then the wife stops them in the elevator, and she's like, "Oh my husband, it gets all pissy and annoying." And you can tell she knows that he messed with the cake, and now he's gone off to the toilets to go bang this lady that he's put some special in the cake for. So she's all annoyed that her husband's off doing that, and decides, screw this, I'm going to help these people out. But she's like, look, I want a kiss from Neo.
Of course.
And Trinity, being the absolute heartthrob she is, points a gun at her and goes, nah, don't think so.
Yeah, sounds about right.
And
You
then
don't
just-
have that twist in there.
and then just like, and then Neo's like, no, calm down, it's alright, we'll just do this. So they give him a kiss, and then she walks them off towards the dungeons. There's a henchman there stopping them. And,
First kiss, then the dungeon.
So the henchman is there and trying to he's like looking at her funny, and she turns around to the rest of the team and goes, how many people do you think carry silver bullets in their guns? Shoots the guy in the head. And that is the beginning, that is the hint that there is, that maybe there might be werewolves or vampires, these henchmen. And as we know from later, there are these twins who turn into ghosts. Now, the Path of Neo, which is the other tie-in game that the Matrix made, Neo, you play as Neo all the way through that game, hence Path of Neo, and this segment of the movie is turned into a game, and they explicitly basically saying that it's werewolves and vampires that are the Merovingian henchmen, and it's hinted that they're from an older program that existed. So they managed to get the keymaker. Neo goes to. They get a whole thing. Neo's also having premonitions about Trinity dying after fighting an agent. I guess you could tie that. This obviously came out way before Episode 3 did. So if anything, Episode 3 would have copied this kind of thing. He doesn't go down the Anakin
side.
But what happens is, so you find out that there's several things that need to happen in order for Neo to get where he needs to get to with the keymaker. Is he needs to there's two. They call them fail-safes, but they're basically just like power stations that need to be destroyed so that certain elements of the Matrix can shut down, so that this secret pathway that can be unlocked by the keymaker.
When it comes to computers.
Yeah, exactly.
So computers have fail-safes.
Yeah, it's taking out all your fail-safes so you can use a backdoor to get into its secret program. It's basically what they're doing.
Basically what you see in films that the hackers do, they break down the small bits and sneak in.
Yeah. So from this point, we after Neo has already talked to the Oracle earlier on, I forgot to mention that after Oracle walks away, and the Oracle is played by someone different, she's got a new look, and you also figure out the Oracle is not a human, the Oracle is actually a program in the machine world. And it confuses Neo because he's like, hang on, you're a program, you work for the Matrix, but you're on our
trying
side.
to defeat the Matrix.
Yeah. So when the Oracle walks off, Mr. Smith turns up in that area, and there's a bunch of him. He's managing to clone himself. And
just
it seems to be that he sticks his hand inside you and corrupts you into him. He's basically become like a computer virus. Anything he touches can be corrupted into himself.
Wow, I got you.
So you have all these different events going place. You've got like the Zion crisis of like machines are getting to Zion happening. You've got Mr. Smith slowly corrupting all of the Matrix into his own personal virus.
Ideal world of just him.
Kind of. That is kind of what they go for. And then you've got Neo and Co trying to get the keymaker to this spot so Neo can complete his mission.
No, so there's mission. Who's going to win?
Yeah, so there's all these different tangents taking place. One of the crews failed to take out their power station. And Neo's already plugged into the Matrix by this point, but Trinity's outside the Matrix.
Yeah.
And they're on their way to get to this failsafe thing because they have to be there for the exact second that both power stations are shut down. So they've got enough, because it's only like a split second to break through this back door. So Trinity's like, look, if they're there, if they try and open that back door before the failsafes are down, they're going to die. So she goes into the Matrix, even after promising Neo she wouldn't because of Neo's having the premonitions. And what would you know? The premonitions that Neo had were the exact events that take place.
Yeah. Typical.
And so you have the build-up of...
Such a often used trope, that is.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a...
story beats are always used repeatedly. This is
Yeah.
Like, when a lot of people...
it works, it's just sometimes it's overplayed.
Well, this is the thing, is a lot of people like to use the fact that different tropes are used as a reason to dislike something. And to me, like, when it comes to a film or a TV show, personally, anyway, it's the reason you're experiencing it. You're experiencing the story. You're experiencing the adventure itself. Like, yes, it might have storytellings that are similar.
Yeah, but the thing is, because with our humanity's been telling stories for years, we've used every trope. We are literally just reusing now.
Yeah.
But it's just sometimes you're watching something you see and you're just like, oh yeah, I know that exactly.
I do think that even if all the tropes have been used, I think there is a level of dedication that is needed to the writer to at least try and hide the fact that you might be using a trope, or if you're going to basically almost use a story one for one, at least make it spectacle enough that
people can overlook it.
Yeah, exactly.
Not go, oh, here we go again.
Which is where the mixed debate of The Force Awakens, because that basically uses a New Hope storyline.
Yeah.
That you have to question like, but was it a coolness story on its own for it to be okay to use
the
storyline?
Exactly.
Personally, I don't mind it.
No, it was alright.
But I know there's a lot.
Oh, there's a lot.
A lot of people that don't. And there is a lot of old Star Wars fans that do say there's a lot of canon breaking that takes place in the new trilogy. But going off canon here. It's not about Matrix. So, Trinity goes to destroy the second power plant so that Neo can get into the back door. Yeah. So she manages to destroy the power plant. Neo steps through the door. Zion is still preparing for the machines potentially coming. Trinity is once she destroys the power station, an agent turns up, and the beginning of Neo's premonition takes place. That she runs away from the agent, and she's eventually going to fall out of the building and get shot by him. And that's all beginning to play out at the same time that Neo steps through this door after having to fight off yet again Mr. Smith and all of his virus clones again. Steps into a room with the KFC guy. Okay. I mean, sorry, the architect. He literally is like the KFC
the Colonel.
Guy. Yeah, literally. And this is where we find out
maybe
basically.
That's a play on connections to the real world.
Not really. Yeah, I just call it because he dresses in a white suit and he's got like the white hair and stuff. It's more it just looks like. It's no connections. Sounds like no.
That's
anyway.
what you think.
Don't.
It's the Matrix.
I've already overthought all of this far too much. I don't need anything else. So this is the most important aspect of a lot of the Matrix as far as what I like to use for sim theory. Because in this part, this is where we find out how the Matrix operates. And basically how it operates is he finds the architect, and the architect explains that, okay, so basically we created the Matrix to keep humanity docile, but we began to find out that for some reason we just couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
There was
always
variables.
Issues.
Yeah, there was variables we couldn't figure out. So we created, and there was another program that was created to basically figure this out. And we found out that the program that was created was the Oracle. And the Oracle managed to figure out that there was something missing. That the prophecy of the One was how was the way that was the secret ingredient for allowing mankind to believe in this. It wasn't to make mankind fully believe in the system, to give them just enough doubt that of another world that exists. And you also find out that the machines of the prophecy of the One is actually fabricated by the machine. It's not this divinity prophetic thing. It's the machines built it as part of the system. Because mankind needs a belief to have in order to continue to exist. We also find out that not only is this the second interpretation of the Matrix, it's actually the sixth interpretation of the Matrix. And that destroying Zion is something they've got very good at. This is the sixth total reset of everything.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, okay. So you find out that machines reaching Zion, this has happened before. Like,
Yeah.
wiping out Zion is all part of this grander plan that Zion, the machine world, the Matrix, it's all connected, it's all ruled by the machines. And basically they allow certain people, they allow people to escape the Matrix to leave this idea that there is a place after. So anyone who challenges the system feels they are breaking away from the system. But the
They're all
system,
still part of
the system has created the paradise that they live in after. And then the thing is that after so long of a time, the One will come into being, and the One will basically...
the cycle.
They're a reset button.
Ah.
The One basically enters into this new line of code and resets everything of the Matrix. So everyone gets reset from the very beginning. They also go into the real world and collect it's like 7 men, and they get, I think it's like 13 people or something like this. There's a certain amount of people, and they're basically the number of council members. I say 13, but I'm not sure. I know that 13 pops up in religious things often. So I'm saying 13 in a very spectacle way.
Yeah, but even if it's 12, it works.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how many it is.
At the Last Supper, there was 13 people at the table.
To be fair, it might be. I'm not
Jesus
sure.
and his 12 disciples. And there's a myth going, or I suppose you could say it's a... what's the word for it? Superstition, that's the word. That when 13 people dine together, the first to rise will be the first to die. And it's like, that could play into...
12.
12. So
It is 12.
Neo and the 12.
Well, yeah, and the idea is that Neo will go into the Matrix, pick 12 people out.
Rip off.
Yeah, that literally looks like Final Supper, that picture.
The Last
doesn't
Supper,
it?
that's the picture. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
so Neo will go into the Matrix.
There's no subtlety here.
He'll go into the Matrix, rescue 12 people, and then after he's rescued that 12, the Matrix will reset. Zion will be destroyed. Those 12 people will be seen as the original 12, who will be rescued by the One, who are rescued by the One, which is where the religion of the One comes from. As Morpheus says in the first film, is that the One, he freed the first of us. So the whole point is that the reset in itself creates the religion of the One at that moment, and then because the One is actually a constructed thing, it's like they will appear every now and again. Neo though decides, because there's 2 doors, it's like you can go through one door, reset the Matrix, everything goes back to normal, go through the other door, we won't reset, Zion will be destroyed and the human race will end. And it's weird that they give him the choice, but that is what it is, they give him the choice. Neo decides, screw this, I want to save Trinity, because the architect has also said, like, yeah, look, Trinity's going to die. But her death is meaningless because this cycle that needs to happen. But Neo's like, no, screw this, I'm going to go rescue her instead. A few interesting things to note is the fact that the architect says that there are 6 simulations. And this I want to be remembered for anyone who comes back after listening to Sim Theory when we eventually get around to it, is that if we already know from Mr. Smith in the first film, the first version was like a utopia, it was paradise. Yeah. It was
perfect place.
It was the perfect world. So that's your first simulation. So there are 5 others, but obviously we know the 5th, the final one that we're in, that's this sci-fi dystopia realm that exists in the Matrix. To me, in my head, the headcanon is that even though there's 6 versions of the Matrix, they don't always look like the version of the Matrix we see. Because as we know, we've got vampires and werewolves and ghosts that appear in this, who are henchmen of the Merovingian. Yeah. And as Neo says, is the code looks old. So it's
is
like,
it from another one?
Is it from a it bleeds over. Like whenever they reset the Matrix, they're still reusing the Matrix, they're just resetting it. Yeah. So elements from
the previous...
previous...
Are they resetting it to something different?
Yeah, so each one...
Yeah.
Each one is, in my head, I assume each one is different, so...
Yeah, it would make sense, because then that's how you get links to various things.
Exactly. And then...
And obviously, because they said they're trying to keep it fresher, so they wouldn't reuse the same thing on the humans because they know, well, it doesn't fully
that's
work.
another thing, is that another canon thing I think of is like, how do the machines keep the human race going? Like, we're not reproducing for them.
So obviously they keep us on supplement or cryostasis.
They could be cloning us.
Could be, yeah.
Over and over and over again.
And just reusing the same.
And how did Morpheus know who Neo was before Neo exerted any abilities of the One? Is it because literally the One looks like Neo
is the One
time?
And every one of the 12 is always the same.
Potentially,
looking. So it's like just on that constant repeat of these are the special ones.
Like the whole human race that has this cycle of existence is basically they're all cloned versions of the human race that basically were the survivors probably of the old war. And
of the original Zion.
It's the same DNA group, just cloned over and over.
Because it could be the fact of Zion is called Paradise because that's where the humans were when the machines won.
Yeah.
So it's that whole thing of they see that as paradise because there was no machines.
Yeah. So maybe that's why they named it Zion, the last city of mankind.
Exactly. Because it was the last city that was only humans. And obviously, in this world where the robots have control, humanity would strive for a place without the robots.
So we'll finish the film, then we'll go into some of these more philosophical things. So Neo, after rejecting this notion of helping them with the reset, basically because of the cool Superman flying through the city.
He does like a Superman voice, doesn't he?
They literally do call it in the film. At one point, he's like, they ask where's Neo, and the operator says, "Oh, he's doing his Superman thing." They record the Superman thing in the film. It's quite funny. So he's flying, but he's going so quick through the city, flying, that all debris is like built up around him, and it's everything's blowing up and stuff. He manages to get to Trinity, who's been shot.
Yeah.
She died. He rescues her, gets her to a building top, and basically, the vision changes, and he sees the code and stuff.
Yeah.
And he dips his hand inside her.
Of course.
And pumps her heart. But you gotta think, like, it's not real though, is it? The Matrix world isn't real. So to someone like Neo, who literally can bend the realm to
anything's possible.
Because this isn't Trinity's real body. This is her. He's basically
cyber body.
Yeah, and he's resetting her neurological self so that her brain can
sort
wake
of like
up.
in Tron. Don't know if you've ever seen it. Tron Legacy.
I've seen Tron Legacy.
Yeah, where Finn takes Cora's disc off and starts fiddling and moving around with the code.
Kind of, yeah. You could see it the same way.
Puts it back on her, and it fixes her.
You could see it as the same way. It would be seen almost. You could. Which is quite interesting because I have actually done a theory on my channel that suggested that the sequel to Tron Legacy is actually the Matrix films, because you've got the woman. I'll talk about this after we finish the thing. So he saved Trinity. Everything is hunky dory, but you find out that Smith has managed to infect someone as they were leaving the Matrix, and he's managed to actually get inside them. But the person whose body he's now taken over isn't waking up. It's potentially like there's some sort of weird, like it's a program, but it's in the real world, so the organic brain doesn't know how to process it.
Yes, yeah.
The ship that everyone was on when they were jacking into the Matrix is attacked by machines. Everyone tries to escape. Neo, for some reason, thinks that he is the damn best thing in the world and puts his hand up and stops them. And she manages to fry the machines in the real world. But it jacks his mind into the Matrix. And that's where Matrix Reloaded gets.
Clever.
Really cool. And then in the next video we'll talk about a lot more of the other stuff. But yeah, I'll go back to the whole Tron Matrix thing. You were just talking about that girl that she has a code, Cora.
Who's ISO. She's not an actual human going in.
She's a program that is becoming alive and
becoming sentient.
And at the very end she leaves,
and becomes human. Yeah.
Which, as I said, Smith is able to leave a program is able to leave the machine world
and become physical.
And another thing that I forgot to mention, which is actually really important for the end of the Matrix 3, and she's a character in Matrix 4, is there's a young girl character who you see with the Oracle, who is actually the daughter of two programs.
Oh, right.
And it's
oh, careful. You never know how to sit properly, do you?
Nope. Actually, it's in the third film, that is. But yeah, what's interesting is you find out that programs that they almost are alive, or they are alive, because they're now able to produce their own creations.
Yeah. Like basically, and like we were saying with Tron, that's how the ISOs came to be, because he's asked, "Did you make them?" No, they just the
program developing itself.
The situation was right, and it came into being.
Which is probably like it probably means that whatever the Matrix is, it definitely had remnant code, probably from the machines themselves.
Yeah.
Because the machines...
It had some sentience.
It was AI that slowly developed over time to truly be independent and begin to create its own life.
Yeah.
And because, as I say in that theory about Matrix and Tron being connected, is... Yeah, so Smith's able to leave into the real world, just like Cora is. And the idea of like... I can't remember exactly. I went into some cool details at the time.
Well, if people want to know, I'm sure they can
Oh yeah,
watch
definitely.
that
Go
video.
check out the theory. It's hilarious. I've actually got some positive feedback from people who are like, yeah, I could see this. This is interesting. This could work.
Inflating your ego.
Dude, why else would I make YouTube?
True. Oh no, not to educate people.
Well, can't I do both? Can't I educate people and inflate my ego at the same
Of
time?
course. What can I say? Actors.
Well, actors, YouTubers, right?
Ah, I'm an amateur actor.
Yeah.
I've been on stage.
I guess the same.
Same.
So yeah, that was Matrix and Matrix Reloaded.
Yep.
I hope I didn't go too crazy with it, and I was good to go over it. Yeah, some interesting things about it is...
Well, a lot of it was, I was picking up, it pulled a lot from Abrahamic religions. So things like Islam, Judaism, Christianity.
the more recent kind of religions.
No. Well, it depends how you call it. Turn of the century. No, not turn of the century.
There isn't any real new religions, really. There's new fragments that are happening.
There's a few, but yeah. Because obviously you were saying the Council of 12, who were picked by Neo.
Jesus and...
Eerily reminiscent of Jesus and the 12 disciples.
Well, Neo's name is an acronym for the
One. Yeah. Oh yeah, that one I already know.
Like, they're not subtle about it. Like,
No,
like
you
he
can
becomes
tell.
the saviour by dying and get resurrected.
I wonder.
Like, they're not subtle about it.
No.
They're at least more subtle than Man of Steel with Superman flying above Earth's orbit doing the actual cross symbol.
Well, no, in saying that, even subtler than that with Matrix, Trinity.
Yeah, the Holy Trinity. Yeah, and the idea there is that
and also,
Trinity.
the main characters. There's three: the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit.
Another thing I want to discuss.
Which, when you consider, Morpheus would be the father, because he's the one who brought Neo into it.
Yeah.
Neo is the son, the one who's promised to save the world. Trinity is the Holy Spirit, the one that's there as the council, somewhat.
An interesting thing, another video I did way back early in the beginning of my channel.
Way back when?
Is I suggested the idea that Neo isn't actually the one. It's easier to understand when after you see the third film, but right at the end of the third film, like there's this the girl program, who is the child of the two programs that had a kid. She shapes the sky at the end of the film when there's a big reset.
Yeah.
There is a reset at the final end of the third film. And in my mind, I like when the Oracle says to Neo, "Look, you are not the one." Like I think she wasn't lying. I think the idea of the one, it's not personally anyway. I think that it's not necessarily like any one person could be.
Yeah.
That it's like people who exhibit the ideas of it. And to me, Neo was deliberately written as this very malleable blank slate that didn't know anything. And so if you were to then look at what Morpheus does as this idea of the one as a religious cult, basically bringing Neo in and being like, hey, look, you're the chosen one.
Yeah.
You have the ability, all these superpowers. You have the ability to stop bullets, to bend the Matrix. You can do all this really cool stuff. Neo just learning that his whole world concept is actually false in itself. He's been told of these superpowers, so he believes it enough. And as we know, the way the Matrix works is
manifest.
Yeah, so he manifests being the one, and all the way through. Like, it's always just been a personal thing, is that anyone could be the one, because as you're looking through the other
It's the
films,
whole principle of, if you believe you're the one, you're the one.
Yeah, kind of.
And it's the whole thing, if you believe you can change the world, you can.
Yeah. But because other interesting ideas you see in the film is, Morpheus says in the first film that no one who has fought an agent has survived. Morpheus fights 2 agents in this saga.
Yeah.
He fights Mr. Smith in the first film. Doesn't go too well for him, but he manages. He fights. Doesn't do well, but he actually does fight an agent, and he survives.
Yeah.
And he actually manages to defeat a second agent in the second film when they're rescuing the Keymaker. There's this awesome highway scene.
Oh yeah.
It's probably one that most people would recognise from the Matrix saga. It's a really long highway. Morpheus has a samurai sword.
Of course.
They're fighting on lorries and everything, and Trinity on a bike. And he fights an agent there, and he actually beats this agent. So if the ideas are to bend the Matrix to your will, and also like being able to defeat these super beings like agents, it's like, well, Morpheus is kind of like anyone who enters the Matrix and does things beyond the norm. Technically, aren't you bending the Matrix to your will in that sense?
Yes.
And then being able to survive an agent. So already Morpheus is ticking these criteria.
Yeah.
It's just Morpheus doesn't become the one because Morpheus is being told that the one is out there. He can't be the one because he's already been told the one is someone else.
Yeah.
Just like everyone else. But Neo is told he is the one. So he attributes and becomes the one by de facto of being indoctrinated into this idea of being the one.
Yeah, I can see that. It makes sense.
And that's why I did the theory where I basically said anyone could reach that level. If anyone was like Neo and was like, look, the Matrix is just this false construct, none of it is real, you can bend it to your whim because this is all in your head.
It's all in your head, boy.
Because it's like there's another really good line, if you've seen the first one, you remember it.
Like I said, long time ago.
He talks to a kid, and the kid's talking about bending a spoon, and the kid says to him, like, you must remember though that it's not the spoon that bends, it is you. And then once you understand that, you understand the real truth, that there is no spoon. So if there is no spoon,
how can you bend it?
Exactly. Like if there is no spoon, it's already bent, or it's already whatever shape you want it to be, because the only reason the spoon is there is because your brain is here.
There.
So it can be, you could if you believed enough, anything could be that big. And the hilarious thing is, there's actually people in our world that believe these kind of things, believe in this idea of literally manifesting your own reality around you.
Yeah, manifestation.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a few people that hold to that belief. Quite a few celebrities, actually.
But now I've explained to you how the Matrix works and the fact there are 6 simulations and stuff. Can you see Sim?
Oh,
Sim
yeah.
Theory
He's,
and 6 simulations, 6 variations of an artificial world, 6 different, genres.
Not really, because there's...
No, that's the idea of the sim theory thing, is that there are 6 storyline, 6 unique versions of the world that exist that have kind of narratives that other things fit into. That fit into those narratives.
Yeah.
Because we talked about Battlestar the other week, and Battlestar I'm now writing and incorporating into sim theory itself as well. So I'm going to eventually get around to that, because that's one of the reasons this whole podcast that we're doing is I want
just
to
as being us. Yeah,
and I want to do a build up. I want to be like, oh yeah, let's talk about all the Battlestar and all the cool concepts and philosophical ideas in it. Let's talk about Matrix and all the ideas, because the more we do this, the easier it will be when we get round to sim theory to be like, look, this is how such and such and such and such works, and the story beats of this line up in a way that, because as I said,
matches with that topic.
Yeah, one thing I forgot to mention that obviously it's a core aspect of how sim theory works is I'm I can't remember if I did or not. When we were talking about Battlestar, did I talk about how the Cylons have this thing called projection?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, projection is this idea that the Cylons can project the world to be perceived how they want it to be perceived. Because they live on ships that they don't have a lot of... Very samey, like they're all just corridors and rooms themselves.
Yeah.
So Boltar, later in the season when he's with the Cylons, he's like, how do you all manage to walk around here? It all looks the same. Like, how do... And they're like, we use projection. Like we envision the world around us to be whatever it is. Some of us perceive a city, some of us perceive a forest. And that idea is partially what bleeds into Synthia, because with Synthia I say that all of the movies and TV shows and all that, they all exist in their own reality.
But they can be seen.
But they can be seen differently because those characters in that world project the world to be in the way it is. So when you've got one film, and I say, when I get to Synthia and I talk about it, I say that this film or this TV show is the same as this film, and you're like, well, they don't seem very alike. And I go, well, there's this, and this that's connected, because they are what in that world are connected, and everything else you see is an interpretation of whatever the character's narrative is telling you what the world was like.
That's what all stories are like. They come from the perspective of the one telling the story. Because like with anything, you could have multiple people looking at the same thing, all have different opinions of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's like the whole idea of UFOs. Some people say they're cylindrical, some people say they're discs, some people say they're balls. It's all a matter of where you're standing.
Yeah.
Because this whole thing of, like, one person sees one thing, but, like with the way we've worked it with one of my movies, with a couple of the scenes. I'm not going to spoil it too much if we ever get to make it. That where one of the characters in couple of the films, he's seen it to be helping someone, but you see later in one of the later films, it literally, the camera switches to show another angle and it shows, no, actually he's killing them. And it's like, but perspective changes everything.
You can see it in the real world, like what you could, instead of projection being an actual visual thing that happens, you just talk to different extreme groups that are online and we're talking about stuff like they will perceive the great narrative of the society we are in as being played out in a certain way, and they are convinced that is the way that the world is playing out.
But that's just how they see it.
It's everything they've heard themselves, or all the things they've been told, has shaped the world that they're in. Yeah. And their narrative is shaped differently to other people around them.
Based on what they've been brought up with and what they've been taught.
Wow. I think that might be it.
Yeah.
We could go on for hours.
Oh yeah, there's normal.
But I think we will save the rest of this for the second half, which is going to be Matrix Revolutions and Matrix Resurrection. And we'll talk about some of the more cooler notions that take place. Yeah,
because I know you said you wanted to try and get into the philosophical side of it a bit.
Yes. Well, once you get to the third film, we start learning a bit more about machines, and then the fourth film kind of where the trilogy ended and where the fourth film has. There's a lot of things that you could kind of grasp were going to happen anyway, but they kind of like concretely say that these things kind of happened, and some of the other things I kind of believe that some of them kind of get like reinforced as well by Matrix Resurrection. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. We will leave it there.
Yep.
And we will go over the rest of the amazing Matrix saga. I might even try and do a bit more research in case there's any real narrative beats for Matrix Online, which was a game that came out just after the trilogy came out, or at the same time as the trilogy, and it was this online. Imagine kind of like WoW, but based in World of Warcraft.
I know.
Yeah, World of Warcraft, but in the Matrix world, and it was based after the trilogy.
Yeah.
And I do believe I did hear somewhere recently that it does have kind of story beats that help explain one or two things.
That kind of extend a bit of knowledge.
So I read a little bit on it way back when I first was like, oh, there's this game that came out, and I missed getting to play it. So as you do with the internet, things that you love, you look up all
Oh,
the
yeah.
extra story beats
Yep.
and the lore and stuff.
It's how I learned half the stuff I do.
Yeah. The internet. It's a great and wonderful place, but also
Oh, very scary.
definitely. Anyway, though, this is where we'll end the video.
Yep.
I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys, and I hope you join us again for part 2 of the Matrix
Yep.
breakdown of Geeky Archives.
Yep. Well, whenever we get to do it this time.
Alright, guys, we will catch you later. Bye!
Bye.